Okay, this is my quick overview on Budgie, Ubuntu Budgie 1804, more so from a design user experience perspective. Hope you enjoy. Thanks. So first and foremost, when I see the login screen, I think immediately of like Windows Vista. I still don't like the default wallpaper here. But the cool thing is that's more like a personal taste thing. You can change that in the settings in like 2 seconds. So it's just me being like, nitpicking. But I am a window wallpaper fanatic. I'm always changing my wallpaper. I never stick with one wallpaper for too long. But this one just reminds me of Vista for some reason, and I'm not a big fan of this. So thankfully, again, you can change it. So when I log in, I need to start my design reviews from like clockwise. So I'll start with the actually, let me get rid of this because this is part of a a test run of my recording when I added a panel. So the original setup is there's actually really one panel. So let me get rid of this one. This is pretty much the general setup of your Budgie desktop environment. You're greeted by a welcome screen, which is fairly nice. It's so cool to see how welcome screens are getting a lot of TLC these days. I think that overall the Linux community is respecting the importance of onboarding a new user and making it as easy as possible. Why that's important to keep them around and help new users be more comfortable faster. So introduction, features, getting started, recommendations, online store, community, get involved, and donate. Always nice. Your welcome screen should always have a donate. Not that it's used much, but install software. Look at this. When I click on it, a pop-up appears, and this is kind of like, this may be a theme overall from this desktop environment review. Is just disjointed. That's the theme of Budgie desktop environment. It feels disjointed. It feels like a hodgepodge. There's a lot of polish that it still needs, in my opinion. And this is based off of Ubuntu 1804, by the way. Is it 1804? Pretty sure it's 1804. And I just think that you'll see little by little why I think that. But overall, though, when you click on this button, it works. It gives you snaps, Flatpaks, Budgie applets, and like a shorthand list of different aspects of installing software. And that's a nice touch. It just seems like the layout, how this lands. Let's see what it looks like when you maximize it. Yeah, same position. Why is it randomly there, covering this other stuff? Like, why? I don't know. But just stuff like that is a little annoying. Default settings, click on that, and you're taken to the default settings, and you see the different little layouts. What's nice about this is that it gives you like a better visual of what it's going to look like, and that you should install it. And that's a nice touch. So that's a good look from there. And then you click on the back button here, and then you're back to the welcome screen. Okay, so overall pretty good. And what's cool about the welcome screen, it does take you to I thought it did for other settings, but that's it. But yeah, default settings, switch appearance. For some reason I thought it took you to the software like the overall settings. So that's the welcome screen. Let's start from left to right. You have the panel here, the dock here. Pretty simple. And you notice that when I hover over it, there's no, magnifying effect like you see in the Mac, which is cool. It's like things are minimalistic here. keeping things very simple and plain, and that's a good thing. And so you get what you get here. I'm not crazy about the default icons, but I am, I'm happy that they chose Chrome as a default. I think I'm surprised more distros don't do that as the default. I mean, I kind of get it. I mean, Firefox is king when it comes to your freedom levels and all that stuff, and they've been kicking butt recently. But we all know how Chrome has dominated, and this is Chromium, so open. Technically, the open source version of it, but they still use Google's APIs in the back end, so it's just barely. The second this thing touches the internet, it's pretty much Chrome, except for very few exceptions. So anyways, you get some basic Office applications, terminal, music, software, and then files. Not to get too nitty gritty with this stuff, but I think that's a really good layout for your dock. Some people put too much stuff. Some people put not enough stuff in their dock. Some people put useless nonsense there. Unity and their Amazon stuff. I get what they're trying to do with that, but Jesus, that was annoying. So anyways, I don't know about you guys, but GNOME Software Center has been a little buggy for me on multiple distributions, and it's been kind of acting up on me. But overall, solid, especially snap integrations in there now. You can get snaps in here. And the layout's getting better and better. Now, moving up, this is where it gets interesting for me. Start menu. The indicator here, the button here, it's okay, circle and a circle looks okay. When I press on it, I notice the first thing is that there's no hover. As I'm scrolling here, there's no hover effect. I'm not a big fan of that. Everyone has their preference of how they use their mouse and click through things. But I think maybe we've been spoiled by the soft touches of Mate, and I think it's the whisker menu, where you can hover and it automatically takes you there. So I'm not a big fan of that. You have to click on it to get to see it, but it's not the end of the world. These are small things. Also, I'm not a big fan of just the layout, the design over this. I don't feel like there's enough polish here. Just bear with me here. Look at what happens. I click here. There's some space in between the actual panel and the pop out. And then from there, it's just a straight up box with subtle curvature on the corners. I don't think there is, actually. Let me see. Keep my eyes going. Now I think there's a soft curve on that thing, but it just looks like a plain old box. And they're throwing stuff in a box. And you scroll through. And so, for me, it seems a little lazy. Now, this, just to give you an example, let me show you what Unity did when it comes to their layout, when they kind of have a launcher of some sort. Let me show what that looks like. Now, here is what Unity does with their launcher. When I press to start their launcher, their start menu, I guess you can say, you see how they have a box popping out of certain things, and normally I just grabbed any image of it just for example, so that usually you'll see the different apps listed here, but you notice how there's a line here, and then almost like a shadow or a background layer here that comes up. And you may not see it on the video here, but there's a really thin one again, right as it comes down the bottom of that panel on the left. And so that just kind of shows, one, there's a cohesion, it's all one thing right now, connected and together, one slab on top of it with that frosted glass look. It really looks really pleasant. It looks really nice. And so here, what we got with this guy here is just a box and just some apps there. So again, very minimalistic. That's okay, I guess, if you don't really mind. But it's kind of, I don't know, just seems a little, I don't want to say lazy, but just not thoughtful. Not very polished. But again, if you're not into that stuff, then that's cool. That's good for that's better for you, actually. So that's the launcher. That's my thoughts on the launcher. Actually, we'll talk about this. This is actually normally over here on the right, but I moved it there for a reason. So I'll tell you in a second. But you go here. Here's where it gets interesting. Also, time and date settings. So I have a settings window here. I click on that, and I go to the master settings panel here. But when I click on preferences, I got this little mini preferences here. I wonder why they don't just throw time and date settings, put the preferences within the time and date settings. Just call it preferences. And then within preferences, you have time and date settings. Why have both and then have a random arrow here? Why does this have an arrow, not that? And then here's a kicker. This is a calendar. Normally in GNOME, you would click on this and you'll see like a little calendar drop down. Pretty much every type of time notification area does that universally, but not this. Budgie goes with bam, straight up calendar app. This is literally a launcher. This becomes a launcher of sorts of this one thing, right in the middle of the screen. And so it's a launcher. You have two ways of getting to some settings, and it just, again, broken, cohesive, is disjointed, not really logical. But I guess for some, they can see that as functional, because if they don't want to put it in their dock, if they don't want to have it through here, if they don't want to, maybe do some applet where they can probably access it here. If they want it here, there's like 4 different places I can get it. If they want their app, their calendar app, boom, they have it right there. I'm not sure about that one. Now, this is the part that really, I really tried to like this. I really tried to say, hey, this is kind of cool. I mean, they get points for being different. This reminds me of your mobile phone and that top bar with those notification icons, or these tiny ones. And then when you try to drop down to access more of those menus, you sometimes turn off your Bluetooth when you're trying to turn off your Wi-Fi, or you turn off something and you end up turning on the battery saver mode. It kind of reminds you of that, like that little, everything's crunched together and thrown in there, and that's where it is. Now, originally, the folder one, which I actually like this little shortcut thing here, kind of reminds you of like GNOME 2 days, where you just click it and boom, it drops down. It was actually originally over here in the middle, and that was my number one complaint. Out of all these things here, the one thing you might use the most is the folders. Why is the folder applet or icon, notification icon, or shortcut, whatever you want to call it, why is it like dead center there? You're just giving me more chances to click on something to the left and erroneously, or click on something to the right. Why? If anything, maybe you should put it on the left here on this next to the caffeine, so that it's the most prominent location next to the other end being the second prominent. So I was kind of like, now these are things, again, you can change. Actually, look at what you can change here. So the other things mean nothing. Like, it's not a big deal. You can change it. But I would say that when it comes to, I'm sorry, it's on the desktop settings. Which, by the way, might be if I go to, but now here's the thing. For here, I go to calendar, I get a calendar and I preferences and I get time and date settings here. But when I click on applets, I don't get the ability like that. When I move away just for a second, it resets. I don't know why. Okay, so now this goes back to this disjointed, fragmented, not polished. I go to Budgie applets and I get the Budgie welcome thing. They're kind of like putting a hodgepodge things together because they don't want to have redundancy, but they end up having it anyways because they're trying to make things convenient, I guess. But I can install applets, but I can't edit my applets. But when I come here, I go to time and date settings and I get everything there. When I go here, I have to go to Budgie desktop settings to get to the, not even from the applets, not even there. Desktop. Is it Budgie themes? Oh my God. No. Can't believe I can't find this. Give me a second. Okay, here it is. I should have known. But it's under top panel. So I guess that makes sense when you want to edit the applet layout, you don't go to applet settings. You don't go to Budgie applets. You go to panel, top panel. And when you click on the top panel, that's when you get to see the layout. So again, just kind of like quirky things like that. So this is where it originally was. It's about here. And I don't even see it anymore. Did it just crash on me, or did it like... Oh, there it is. I think it was actually one more over, but that's all right. So I gotta like make sure out of all these little small icons, I click on the right icon to get access to that. Of course, I can always click here, but then let's see if I can do that. Boom! I can always just do this here, and then boom, I have my... See if I can mimic, drop to add, open file. Okay, yeah, so that's interesting. When I put it in the dock, I can't just click it as a launcher. It treats it like a right click. When I click on it, it treats it like a right click. So I have to click and then click again to open the file. These are small things that just add up. Again, I'm not trying to crap on the project, but people love this thing. People love Budgie. That's cool for you. Caffeine, love. It's very quaint that they add caffeine default there. I'm not sure for some of that it's like very specific use case why it's there, but it's nice touch, I think. You get the network stuff. Again, you get the folders here again. I don't know. Not a big fan of this placement here. Then you get the designer's worst nightmare, the hamburger menu, because the hamburger menu has meant so many different things for so many different use cases in mobile and in desktop, and it's just like they could use a better icon for this. But for what it's for, it's again quaint, simple, minimalistic, small, like just a little scrapbook area, scratch pad here. Then you get the notifications bell. Here's where things get interesting. Let me go over here. I click on notifications bell, and then I noticed that notifications is not just notifications. There's a section for applets. I'm like, okay. Not only can I log out, go to the power, turn off, or go to settings from my notifications button. I don't know how they're connected, but I can go to notifications and log out. I can also go to applets. And then from applets, I can go to output and input of audio sources. I just jumped from notifications to applets about my audio input sources. Again, functional in the sense that you can jump around and get to things kind of easy if you follow their logic, or if you just stumble into things and it just catches on and you just get, build a muscle memory of some sorts. But it just seems a little too, just disconnected. They're almost like Frankenstein in it, just put everything kind of everywhere. And it just doesn't work for me. Battery, audio. Now here's a crazy part. From notifications and applets, I can access my audio settings, but when I click on this, I just get the audio levels here, like increase, down, decrease, and then I get sound settings. And then from sound settings, I can do the same thing there that can get you through the notifications panel. So why not just create that part of the applet, bake it right into this part? If I can literally jump to a calendar app from my clock, why can't I just go to I can go to my sound settings, so why not just give it to me right then and there, just like how I can go to preferences right here. Why not just throw it in there? If it's about functional convenience, then that makes more sense there, but it's not there. Moving on. Traditionally, if you are going to put like a log out, suspend, hibernate, restart, shut down, usually it's on the outermost area, because when you're shutting things down, you're not really as precise. You're just, all right, I'm done, and you just knock that mouse in the corner and click. This, I got to be accurate. I don't know why it's right next to the Raven panel launcher here, but it has to be it has to be accurate, it has to be right there. Don't get that. I mean, I get it because it's on the outermost and it pulls in, but I guess that's what it is. So I have to take that one back, but it just seems out of place. Just seems a little out of place to me. Click on this piece, and now we have applet side of this Raven panel. And guess what I get? A calendar. Okay. And guess what else I get? Another audio leveler. I just noticed that. I noticed the output and input, but I just noticed this piece right here. And from here I can log out, but also from here I can log out. So I guess that answers the whole thing about the power settings being on the right. So I can faintly follow some of the logic here, but I'm just not sure if it lands. Then the bottom right, we have Conky here. And you can't really tell from my monitor, but OBS looks okay, but I could barely see the 22, and I could barely see August. So I have to make sure that my Conky here is dark or something so that I can make sure I can see that bad boy. That looks really nice. So that is my ultimate assessment of the user interface, design, layout of Budgie Desktop. I think it's polished. It needs polish. It's made some improvements, obviously. I just wonder if they could have done better with just doing their own spin of a established desktop environment instead of doing this kind of Frankenstein type thing of putting things together in weird places. And that's just me, though. If you love it, that's what's beautiful about Linux. You get choice, you get options, and then with this, even you can tinker and tweak to a certain degree. So that's my assessment. That's my thoughts on the Budgie desktop environment. I don't think I'm ever going to run this anytime soon, but it was kind of fun to try out. Some of the apps just kind of sometimes, like, because it's based on, I think, GTK. Yeah, so I was kind of like jarred by all these, like, again, hamburger menu grid. See what I'm saying? And by the way, when you see this grid, sometimes that, from a user perspective, that people think that's like something I should be holding and grabbing and moving around with. See, I could do that. That's what some people think that is sometimes. But this is like just, again, so I've got hamburger menu next to hamburger menu. This is like a short, like a thin hamburger stack menu, and then I got a fatter, wider one here, right next to each other. And these are just not. And then I get these arrows here, right? And I know it's like a GTK thing, but like other apps don't have that. So there's that consistency thing. And it's kind of messy. Gets kind of messy. So it needs polish. It needs some more cohesion. And but if you love it, I love that you love it. Have fun with it. It's not for me. This is prophetic. Again, wrapping up this review of Ubuntu Budgie 1804. And if you think this is a better implementation than the actual Solus one, please let me know and why. Or if you think the Solus implementation of Budgie, which is like their own baby, let me know why too. This prophetic signing off. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.